On a freezing winter night, a 17-year-old black girl was biking through the streets, making deliveries, just hoping to earn enough for one more night at the boarding house. As she hurried to finish her last order, she saw an old man standing by the bus stop, lost and shivering. She hesitated. This delivery was her last chance to keep her job, but kindness won. She turned back to help him. What she didn't know was that the man was a billionaire, and that one small act of compassion would change her life forever. Before we dive deeper into the story, tell me, where are you listening from? And don't forget to subscribe so I can share more heartwarming stories with you tomorrow. The wind off the river cut through Maplebrook like broken glass, sharp and cold enough to sting your teeth when you breathed. Streetlights flickered over patches of frozen sidewalk. The snow crushed to gray under tired feet. Aaliyah Carter pedaled fast, head down, her gloved hands stiff on the handlebars of a second-hand bike whose chain groaned at every turn. 17, thin and tougher than she looked, she had learned to keep moving. Deliveries paid by the mile, not by the hour. One more order before curfew. One more envelope of cash. One more night. She wouldn't be locked out of the only room she could afford. She whispered to herself, just one more stop, trying to drown the hunger in her stomach and the ache in her legs. Her phone buzzed with a message from her manager. Don't be late again. Last warning. She shoved it back into her pocket, jaw tightening. The air smelled of iron and chimney smoke, the kind of cold that made you feel like even the sky had given up. At the corner near the bus depot, her front tire skidded slightly over ice. That's when she saw him. An old man stood by a rusted bus sign, coat-thin scarf half undone, clutching a crumpled paper in shaking fingers. His skin was pale under the orange streetlight, his eyes searching every passing car, as if hope might roll up any second. He murmured something Aaliyah couldn't catch. Maybe a bus number, maybe a name. She slowed one foot, dragging the ground, watching him from a few yards away. No one else did. People kept walking, heads down, collars up, too busy or too cold to care. She bit her lip. Don't stop. You can't stop. The clock on her phone flashed 7:41. The delivery had to be done by 8. 10 minutes late, and she'd lose not just her pay, but the week's rent. She glanced again at the man. His mouth moved soundlessly, the paper trembling in his hands. He looked lost, not waiting lost like a child who wandered too far and forgot the way back. Her mother's voice flickered through her mind, soft and distant. If you ever see someone alone like that, you stop, baby. Doesn't matter who they are. Aaliyah squeezed her eyes shut, pressing her tongue against the inside of her cheek. Not tonight, she muttered. Please, not tonight. She pushed down on the pedals, the bike jerking forward. But after 2 turns of the wheel, her stomach twisted heavy with guilt. The image of the old man wouldn't leave her head, those empty eyes scanning the street, the way his shoulders hunched, as if the world had forgotten he existed. She cursed under her breath, turned the bike around, and coasted back toward the bus stop. Sir, she called, cautious but gentle. You okay out here? The man blinked, startled, his gaze cloudy and unfocused. Bus 23, he whispered. Willow End. I think I missed it. His voice cracked like dry wood. Up close, Aaliyah saw how frail he was, skin thin as paper fingernails, blue from the cold. You live near Willow End, she asked. He nodded, slowly, unsure. That's a long way, she said, eyes darting to her phone again. 7:46. Damn it. She could make it if she left now. But the man shivered, trying to rub warmth into his arms. Aaliyah looked at his shoes, old leather split at the toes, soaked through. The guilt hit again, sharper this time. All right, she sighed. Come on, let's figure this out. He hesitated, confused. Figure what? Getting you home, she said. It's too cold to wait here. The old man blinked at her, disbelief flickering like light behind fog. You don't have to, he murmured. Someone will come. Aaliyah looked down the road. The buses had stopped an hour ago. Nobody was coming. Yeah, well, looks like I already did. She knelt, checked her bike's back rack. It wasn't meant for passengers, but it held weight before boxes, groceries. Sometimes her own despair. She brushed snow off the seat and looked up. Can you sit here if I go slow? He frowned. I don't want to be trouble. Too late, she said with a faint grin. Trouble's kind of my thing. He smiled for the first time, a tired small curl of his lips. She didn't realize then how much that smile would stay with her. But as he tried to climb on, her phone buzzed again. Where are you? She ignored it. Her fingers trembled as she wrapped her scarf tighter around his neck, tucking the ends under his chin. Hold on, she said. The old man looked at her with glassy gratitude. "You remind me of—" He started, but his voice trailed away into the cold. Aaliyah didn't ask who. She pushed off the curb wheels, crunching against the snow, legs burning as she pedaled into the biting wind. The delivery bag thumped against her hip heavy with the last order she wouldn't complete tonight. Behind her, the man hummed something faint, a tune with no words, maybe a memory too faded to name. She clenched her jaw and kept pedaling every push forward, a fight between reason and compassion. "You just ruined everything," her mind hissed. Maybe not, her heart answered. The road curved along the river streetlights, blinking in and out like dying stars. Each one passed felt like a countdown she couldn't stop. Her phone buzzed again and again in her pocket, but she didn't look. She didn't need another threat to know what she'd already lost. The man leaned closer, whispering through chattering teeth. "It's colder than it used to be." "Yeah," she said, breath white in the dark. "World's meaner too." He gave a soft, wheezing laugh. "Not all of it." She looked over her shoulder, saw the ghost of a smile, and for a moment, the cold didn't feel so cruel. A car splashed past, horn blaring, sending a spray of icy slush over them both. Aaliyah swore, shaking her head. "People are wild," she muttered. "Always have been," the man said, voice trembling but calm. They passed the town's edge where the pavement ended, and the old road began cracked, narrow, half buried under snow. "How far did you say it was?" she asked. "Willow End," he murmured, frowning. "I think near the hills." She sighed. "Great. Uphill." The man didn't answer, his head lowering as if sleep might take him right there. Aaliyah bit her lip. She couldn't let him freeze. She pulled over under a flickering streetlight, opened her delivery bag, and pulled out the one thing she had left, a thin, cheap blanket meant for groceries. She wrapped it around his shoulders and tucked it close. "You're gonna be fine, all right," she said softly. He nodded weakly, eyes half closed. She looked at him for a long second. His face, lined with age and confusion, reminded her too much of the man her mother used to visit at the nursing home, the one who always forgot her name, but never forgot to smile. "Hang on tight," she whispered. "We're going." And she pedaled again, harder this time. The wind hit her face like needles, but she leaned forward, teeth gritted, heart pounding. Every turn of the wheel echoed in her chest. Somewhere between the sound of the chain and the scrape of her breath, something inside her shifted quiet, small but undeniable. For the first time that night, she wasn't just trying to survive, she was trying to do right. Behind her, the old man stirred, whispering the name Arthur. Aaliyah didn't hear it over the wind. The river glittered beside them like a black mirror. Street by street, light by light, she rode through the frozen silence of Maplebrook, unaware that this single act, the choice to stop to care, was already rewriting both their lives. The tires skidded across patches of black ice, but she kept her balance with the precision of someone who'd had no choice but to learn. Behind her, the old man, Arthur, clung to the edges of the seat, his hands trembling, but still holding on. His breath came in shallow bursts that turned white in the air and disappeared into the dark. The town lights had already vanished behind them, swallowed by the hill's slow incline. Every time the chain slipped, Aaliyah whispered a curse under her breath, but never slowed. She couldn't afford to stop now, not with the wind clawing through their clothes like it wanted to strip them down to bone. Arthur spoke suddenly, his voice small and hesitant. "I used to walk this road a long time ago. It didn't feel so steep then." Aaliyah exhaled hard through her nose, forcing a half smile. "Guess the hill got taller. Or maybe I got smaller," he said with a faint laugh that broke into a cough. She glanced over her shoulder, concern flickering across her face. "You holding up back there?" "I'm all right, dear," he said. "I've had worse nights." "Yeah," she muttered, pushing harder on the pedals. "Can't imagine too many worse than this." He chuckled again, weakly this time, and she could feel him shiver behind her. The rhythm of the wheels, the whine of the chain, the crunch of snow, all of it blended into a quiet music that filled the silence between them. For a moment, she forgot how cold she was. "You remind me of my granddaughter," Arthur said softly, his words almost lost to the wind. "She used to wear gloves like yours, blue ones, always losing them." Aaliyah blinked, glancing down at her own frayed gloves, once blue, now faded to gray. "Guess I got that problem too," she said. "What happened to her?" The question hung between them. He didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice cracked like an old door hinge. "She passed, a few winters back. I still talk to her sometimes." Aaliyah felt something tighten in her chest. "Yeah," she murmured. "I talk to my mom too. Guess it makes the silence less loud. The old man nodded, though she couldn't see it. For a while they didn't speak. The world shrank to the road ahead, the snow around them, and the faint hum of their shared breath. Then Arthur's voice came again, softer than before. People used to stop for each other, you know. Now everyone's in a hurry to get somewhere, and nobody remembers where they were going in the first place. Tell me about it, she said. Half the people I deliver to don't even look up from their phones. I'm just another ghost on a bike. You're not a ghost tonight, he said, his tone suddenly clear, deliberate. You stopped. The words hit harder than she expected. She swallowed, blinking back the sting in her eyes. Yeah, well, don't thank me yet. Still gotta get you home before we both freeze. They crested a hill, and the bike wobbled dangerously. Arthur gasped, clutching tighter to the sides. You all right? Aaliyah asked. Fine, he said, his voice shaky. You sure? Yes, he murmured. You pedal like my daughter, always stubborn. Guess it runs in the family, she said with a small grin. He smiled too, but it faded quickly. The wind picked up again stronger now, pushing against them like a wall. Her legs ached, her lungs burned. The cold had turned her fingers numb, but she refused to slow down. Almost there, she told herself. Almost. They passed through a stretch of trees where the branches bent under the weight of snow, creaking like old bones. The world felt suspended, time slowed breath, visible the moon, their only witness. The glow. It's not much, but it's warm. She blinked disbelief flickering across her face. Are you sure I wouldn't offer if I wasn't? She nodded slowly, a small, grateful smile forming despite her exhaustion. Thank you, she whispered. Really? Get some rest, he said. We'll figure something out in the morning. She followed him to the back room. The walls were lined with boxes of paper towels and canned goods, the air faintly smelling of cardboard and citrus. There was a thin cot near the heater exactly as he said. He handed her an extra blanket from a shelf. You'll be safe here, he said. Lock the door if it makes you feel better. I will, she said softly. He gave a small nod and left the door clicking shut behind him. The hum of the heater filled the room. Aaliyah sat on the cot, the blanket pulled tight around her shoulders. For the first time in hours, she felt something close to relief. Her body ached, her mind was raw, but she was still here, still breathing. She looked down at her hands, red cracked, trembling, and exhaled a long, shaky breath. She whispered, "Thank you," though she didn't know if she meant Harold the hidden camera or something higher. Lying back, she closed her eyes. The noise from the store faded, replaced by the steady sound of the wind outside. She thought about Arthur, the old man she had helped, and wondered if he was asleep, now safe in his warm house. The image made her smile faintly in the dark. She didn't know it yet, but that small act of kindness, both hers and Harold's, had just changed the direction of her life again. And as the heater hummed and snow tapped softly against the window, Aaliyah Carter, for the first time in a long while, drifted into a deep, peaceful sleep. The black car showed up just after sunrise. It stopped quietly outside the convenience store while the streets were still half asleep and the air was sharp with cold. Aaliyah was sweeping near the counter when she noticed it through the window. The car was too clean, too polished for Maplebrook. It didn't belong here. She frowned, broom still in her hand, watching as a tall man in a dark coat stepped out and looked around before walking toward the door. Harold looked up from the register, curious. You expecting someone, he asked. No, Aaliyah said, shaking her head. Never seen that car before. The bell above the door jingled as the man walked in. He carried himself with quiet confidence, not like a customer, but like someone on a mission. His coat was buttoned perfectly, his hair neat, his eyes calm and focused. He looked around once, then spotted Aaliyah. Good morning, he said politely. I'm looking for someone named Aaliyah Carter. Aaliyah blinked, surprised. That's me. The man nodded slightly. My name's Charles. I work for Mr. Arthur Layton. He asked me to find you. The sound of that name hit Aaliyah hard. Arthur, she said slowly. Yes, Charles replied. Mr. Layton remembers what happened last night. He wanted to thank you in person. Harold frowned, confused. Arthur Layton, the one up on Oak Hill. That's right, Charles said. He gave me this. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded piece of paper, worn and creased. Aaliyah recognized it immediately, the old store receipt she'd torn in half the night before. Her handwriting was still there, shaky and blue. Aaliyah Carter, and a phone number. Her eyes widened. He still had that, she whispered. Charles nodded. He kept it in his hand all night. When he woke up this morning, he handed it to me and said, find her. "But how did you know I was here?" Aaliyah asked, still stunned. "I called the number you wrote," Charles explained, "but it didn't go through. So I asked around town, small place like this people talk. Someone at the delivery company said they'd seen you helping out here last night. Wasn't hard to find you after that." She stared at the paper, speechless. "He really remembered me, every detail," Charles said. "And he hasn't stopped talking about you since." Harold leaned on the counter, impressed. "You must have made quite an impression, kid." Aaliyah looked down, unsure what to say. Charles gestured toward the door. "If you're ready, Mr. Layton would like to see you. He insisted I bring you to him." She hesitated, her voice quiet. "Now, he didn't want to wait," Charles said simply. Harold gave her a nod. "Go on, Aaliyah. You should see what this is about." "You sure?" she asked softly. "I'm sure," he said. "I'll keep an eye on your things till you get back." She took a deep breath, set the broom aside, and grabbed her coat. The air outside was cold and sharp, the kind that bit your skin but woke you up. The black car waited at the curb, steam curling from the exhaust. Charles opened the back door for her. "Don't worry," he said. "You're safe." She hesitated for a second, then climbed in. The seat was warm. The car smelled faintly of pine and leather. She hadn't sat in anything that clean in years. Charles got in the front and started the engine. As they drove, Maplebrook passed by. Slowly, the old diner, the cracked sidewalks, the same streets she'd biked through every day. But from inside the car, everything looked different, smaller somehow. "Mr. Layton said you helped him when he was lost," Charles said after a few minutes. "He told me you wrapped your scarf around him, that you got him home when he couldn't remember who he was." "He looked scared," Aaliyah said quietly. "I couldn't just leave him." "Most people did," Charles said, "but you didn't." The ride was quiet after that. When they reached Oak Hill, the snow was thinner, the roads clearer. The car turned into a long driveway lined with bare trees. At the top stood a white house. She remembered the one from the night before. "This is where I brought him," she said softly. "Yes," Charles said, pulling to a stop. "He's been waiting for you since morning." The front door opened before they even reached it. Arthur Layton stood there, cane in hand, smiling. He looked healthier now, his posture straight, his eyes alert. "There you are," he said warmly. "Come in, child, please." Aaliyah hesitated. "You really didn't have to send someone for me," she said. Arthur chuckled. "You didn't have to save me either, but you did. Seems fair." She smiled nervously and stepped inside. The house was bright and warm, filled with the smell of coffee and wood polish. A fire burned quietly in the fireplace. Arthur motioned for her to sit on the couch while he eased into a chair across from her. "I remember everything now," he said. "You found me at that bus stop when no one else would. You got me home. You gave me your scarf. You even left me that paper with your name." Aaliyah looked at the folded receipt still in his hand. "I didn't think you'd keep it. It reminded me that people still care," he said softly. "That I'm not just an old man waiting to be forgotten." "I'm just glad you're okay," she said. "You don't owe me anything." "Oh, but I do," he said. "You gave me more than a ride. You gave me a reason to remember who I am. That doesn't happen often at my age." She smiled faintly. "You sound a lot better than last night." "I am," he said. "You brought me back to myself, and now I want to return the kindness." "You don't have to." She started, but he shook his head. "I want to. You said you lost your home and your job, didn't you?" She hesitated, then nodded. "It's been rough," she admitted. "I'll be fine, though. I always figure it out." "You don't have to figure it out alone," he said. "I have more rooms here than I can use, and not enough people to fill them. You're welcome to stay as long as you need." Her eyes widened. "Here, I can't do that. It doesn't feel right. It's not charity," he said firmly. "It's gratitude. You helped me when you didn't have to. Now let me help you." She stared at him, unsure what to say. His tone wasn't forceful. It was kind, steady, sincere. "Just think about it," he said. "If you stay, we'll find you some work, maybe help you get back to school. I've been wanting to start a small fund to help young people like you, people who deserve a real chance. I could use your help with that." "Me?" she asked. "Why me?" "Because you understand what it means to struggle and still do the right thing," he said. "That's what this world needs more of." She sat quietly, her mind spinning. A small part of her wanted to run things like this didn't happen to people like her, but another part deeper down wanted to believe it was real. "Okay," she said finally, her voice soft. "I'll stay. Just for a little while." Arthur smiled. "Good. That's all I ask." He looked at Charles. "Show her to the guest room, would you? The one with the garden view." "Of course," Charles said. As Aaliyah stood, Arthur said gently, "And Aaliyah, thank you again. You didn't just bring me home. You reminded me what kindness looks like." She smiled, shy but genuine. "You don't have to thank me anymore." "Maybe not," he said, "but I will anyway." She followed Charles upstairs, her steps quiet against the polished floor. The house felt calm, peaceful, the air warm and still. When they reached her room, she stopped in the doorway. The bed was soft, the window wide, the garden below covered in white. "This is for me?" she asked. Charles nodded. Mr. Layton insisted. "It's too much," she murmured. "He doesn't see it that way," Charles said. "He says you gave him something he can't repay." She turned to the window again, the morning light bright on her face. For the first time in months, she felt like she belonged somewhere, even if just for a moment. The next morning, Aaliyah woke up to sunlight for the first time in weeks. It streamed through the wide window, spilling across the white sheets and soft carpet. For a moment, she didn't move. Her mind took a few seconds to catch up, trying to remember where she was. Then she sat up slowly, blinking at the sight of the room. The dresser polished, the curtains clean, the faint smell of fresh linen. It felt strange being surrounded by quiet that wasn't cold or empty. She got dressed quickly, brushing her hair back and folding the blanket, even though no one had asked her to. When she opened the door, the hallway outside was empty. She followed the sound of voices downstairs. Arthur sat at the dining table with Charles, a cup of tea steaming beside him. He looked up and smiled when he saw her. "Good morning," he said warmly. "Sleep well, better than I have in a long time," she said honestly. "Thank you again for letting me stay." "No thanks needed," he said. "You helped me when no one else did. This is the least I can do." She hesitated before sitting down, feeling out of place among the fine furniture and silverware. Arthur noticed and gave her a reassuring look. "Relax," he said. "You're not a guest here. You're welcome." She nodded quietly. Charles poured her a cup of tea, then excused himself to answer a phone call. The house fell into a comfortable silence. "You said last night you wanted to talk about something Aaliyah said." Arthur smiled. "Yes, I did. I've been thinking about what happened to me and to you. It reminded me how easy it is for people to fall through the cracks. You lost your home because you did something kind. That shouldn't happen to anyone." She looked down, her fingers tightening around the cup. "It's just how things are sometimes. It doesn't have to be," he said. "Not if people care enough to change it." He leaned back in his chair. "I want to start a small foundation to help young people like you. Somewhere they can get back on their feet, finish school, find jobs. Real help, not charity." Aaliyah blinked, caught off guard. "You mean, like a program exactly?" Arthur said. "I've been thinking about it for a while, but I never had the right person to help run it. Now I do." "Me?" she asked, startled. "Yes, you," he said. "You know what it means to struggle and still choose to help someone. That's what this needs. It needs heart." "I don't know anything about running something like that," she said quickly. "I've never even gone to college." "You'll learn," he said with a small smile, "and I'll make sure you have the chance to. I'd like to help you go back to school if that's what you want." She stared at him, unsure if she'd heard right. "You'd pay for that, I'd invest in it," he corrected, "because people like you are worth investing in." For a long moment, she didn't say anything. Her chest felt tight, but not in a bad way. She wasn't used to hearing words like that directed at her. "I don't want to take advantage of your kindness," she said quietly. "This isn't about taking advantage," Arthur said. "It's about accepting help when it's offered. You've spent your life giving it. Let someone else take a turn." He paused. "You don't have to decide now. Stay a while. Think about it." She nodded slowly. "All right," she said. "I'll think about it." "Good," Arthur said. "In the meantime, there's plenty to do around here. Charles will show you the library later. There's an office attached to it, could use someone organized. Maybe you start there." She smiled for the first time that morning. "I can do that." "I know you can," he said. After breakfast, Charles showed her around the house. The place felt even bigger in daylight, tall ceilings, long halls, shelves full of books that looked older than she was. There was a greenhouse out back, its glass roof dusted with snow. The air inside smelled like soil and lemon trees. "Mr. Layton comes here every morning," Charles said. "Says it helps him think." Aaliyah touched one of the plants gently, the leaves warm from sunlight trapped in the glass. "It's beautiful," she said. "It's quiet," Charles replied. "That's why he likes it." As the day went on, she helped where she could, organizing the office, sorting mail, tidying up small things no one had touched in years. Every so often, she'd catch herself pausing, wondering if she was dreaming. It didn't feel real yet, being somewhere safe, being needed. Late in the afternoon, Arthur found her at the desk, surrounded by old papers. "How's it going?" he asked. Good, she said, smiling faintly. You weren't kidding about the mess. I've been meaning to get to it, he said. I just needed the right person. She looked up at him. You really trust me with all this? You trusted me last night, he said simply. That made her smile again. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen, not for what she lacked, but for what she could be. That evening, they had dinner together in the small dining room, not the big formal one. Arthur insisted on keeping things simple. They talked about her mother, his wife, the town, the way people had changed over the years. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did, it was always thoughtful. When she told him about losing her job, he just nodded and said, Sometimes life closes doors because it knows you're meant to walk through another one. That sounds like something people say when they have money, she said, half joking. Arthur laughed softly. Maybe, but it's still true. After dinner, Charles brought in some papers for Arthur to sign, then excused himself again. The house grew quiet. Arthur looked at her across the table. You've had a hard life, haven't you? He said gently. Yeah, she admitted, but so have a lot of people. True, he said, but not everyone keeps their kindness through it. That's rare. She didn't know how to respond, so she just said, Thank you. Don't thank me, he said. Just promise me something. What's that you'll stay? At least until you find your footing. Give this a chance. She looked down, thinking about it. Part of her still wanted to run like she always did when things got too good, but something about Arthur's tone made her stop. He wasn't offering charity. He was offering trust. Okay, she said finally. I'll stay. Arthur smiled, relief softening his face. Good, he said. Then tomorrow we start talking about the foundation. What I've decided to call it, the Maple Light Foundation, he said. You inspired it. We'll help young people who've lost their way, just like I lost mine that night. Aaliyah blinked, surprised. That's really nice. It's necessary, he said, and it'll be our project. Together. Together, she repeated, still not believing it. Yes, he said, I'll handle the money. You'll handle the heart. She laughed softly. I'm not sure what that means. You will, he said with a grin. You've already proven you know how to care about people. The rest, you'll learn. As the fire in the corner crackled, the warmth of the room wrapped around them. For the first time since her mother died, Aaliyah felt like the ground under her feet was steady again. When she went to bed that night, she lay awake for a while, staring at the ceiling. The house was quiet, but it didn't feel lonely. Somewhere downstairs, she could hear Arthur's voice faintly through the floor, talking to Charles about plans, ideas, and lists. The sound made her smile. Maybe this was what hope sounded like, steady, simple, real. And for the first time in a long time, Aaliyah let herself believe that her story wasn't over yet. News about Aaliyah staying with Arthur spread faster than either of them expected. It started as a small mention in a local newspaper, just a short piece about the retired businessman Arthur Layton, seen again in good health after weeks of illness, reportedly cared for by a young woman who showed remarkable compassion. But within days, that small story became something bigger. A few local bloggers picked it up, turning it into a feel-good miracle about kindness and second chances. Someone took a picture of Aaliyah walking beside Arthur in town, helping him with groceries. It looked innocent enough, Arthur smiling, Aaliyah laughing, but online people turned it into something else. Comments started appearing, some kind, some cruel. She's such a good kid, one person wrote. Wish more young people were like her. But below it, another said, good kid please, she's playing him. You really think some girl off the street helps an old rich man out of the goodness of her heart? Aaliyah didn't see the post at first. She was too busy working with Arthur on the foundation. The days were full meetings, paperwork, letters, planning sessions that ran late into the night. Arthur was patient and steady, teaching her about everything from budgeting to outreach programs. For once, she felt like her effort mattered. But Charles noticed the noise online and decided to tell Arthur before Aaliyah saw it herself. It's getting some attention, he said carefully one morning, setting his tablet on the desk. Mostly positive, but a few people are skeptical. Arthur looked at the screen, frowning. People will always talk, he said simply. Yes, but some of these comments are spreading fast, Charles said. It might be wise to get ahead of it. No, Arthur said, shaking his head. We'll keep doing what we do. Truth doesn't need to shout. Unfortunately, the world didn't see it that way. A few days later, one of those skeptical voices became louder and personal. Evan, the former store manager. He'd been scrolling through social media when he saw a headline, Mysterious Teen Rescues Local Billionaire. He froze when he saw her face. Aaliyah. The same girl who'd gotten him fired. The same girl who in his mind had made him look like a fool in front of everyone. His hands clenched around his phone. "Unbelievable," he muttered. The article showed her smiling beside Arthur, dressed neatly, standing in front of a white gate. The caption called her a young woman with a heart of gold. He felt his stomach twist with anger. "Heart of gold," he said under his breath. "Sure. More like gold digger." The jealousy turned into something uglier as the hours passed. He started posting comments under fake accounts, hinting that Aaliyah had used Arthur, that she'd played the sympathy card. But that wasn't enough. A few nights later, he made a video. Sitting in his car, face half lit by the dashboard glow, he spoke directly into his phone camera. "You've all heard about that sweet story of the poor girl helping the rich old man," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Yeah, I know her. Worked with her. She's no angel. She's a liar and a thief. Don't let that fake smile fool you." He leaned closer. "Ask yourself this. How does a homeless kid suddenly end up living in a billionaire's house? You think that's coincidence? Come on." He uploaded it to a local gossip page. By the next morning, it had thousands of views. The comments poured in. Some people believed him right away. Others demanded proof. He didn't have much, but he didn't need it. The rumor was enough. By the time Aaliyah checked her phone that afternoon, she could feel that something was wrong. Dozens of notifications blinked on the screen. Her stomach sank as she started reading. "She's scamming him," one comment said. "How pathetic." Another wrote, "Rich old guy gets played by a teenage sob story. Classic." Her hands trembled as she scrolled. "Arthur!" She called, her voice small. He looked up from his desk. "What is it? People are saying things about me. About us. Online." Arthur frowned and reached for his glasses. She handed him the phone. He read in silence for a minute, then sighed and handed it back. "It's nonsense," he said calmly. "Don't let it get to you." "But they're saying I used you," she said, her voice shaking. "That I only helped you for money. They think I'm some kind of scammer." Arthur's tone stayed even. "And you know that's not true." "That doesn't matter," she said, tears welling up. "They believe it. The internet believes everything for a day," he said gently. "Then it moves on." But this one didn't. Within 24 hours, the story was everywhere. News outlets picked it up, spinning headlines like "Billionaire's young companion sparks questions." Some didn't name her directly, but everyone knew. The comments became crueler. Some said she was manipulating Arthur. Others hinted at things worse. Aaliyah stopped checking her phone altogether. She couldn't stand seeing her name twisted by strangers. Arthur tried to reassure her. "People are restless," he said one night. "They like to tear down what they don't understand." "I shouldn't have stayed," she said quietly. "This is my fault." "Nonsense," he said firmly. "You did what was right. I won't let anyone change that." Charles was more cautious. "We could release a statement," he suggested. "Clarify that nothing inappropriate happened, that the foundation is legitimate." Arthur shook his head. "I don't owe anyone an explanation for kindness." But the pressure didn't stop. Reporters started showing up at the gates, calling through the intercom, asking for interviews. Neighbors whispered. Aaliyah could feel their stares whenever she left the house. It wasn't until a week later that something shifted. A familiar face appeared online, Harold, the store owner. He'd seen the videos, the accusations, and it made him furious. One evening, he sat in his office, pulled up the old store camera footage, and uploaded it to his account. "This is for anyone calling that girl a liar," he said in the video. "I was there. I saw what happened. She got blamed for stealing money she didn't touch. You want proof? Here it is." The clip showed Evan clearly taking cash from the register. Harold spoke over it. "She worked hard. She was respectful. She didn't take a damn thing. That man lied then, and he's lying now." The video went viral overnight. People started connecting the dots. Old customers commented, confirming the story. "I remember that girl," one wrote. "She used to deliver my groceries. Always polite, always on time." A few others posted photos and short clips of her helping Arthur that night, one from across the street, showing her holding the bike steady while he climbed on. The tide slowly began to turn. The same people who had doubted her started apologizing, some quietly, some publicly. "Maybe we judged too fast," one post read. Arthur showed her the comments one morning, smiling. "See, truth wins in the end." Aaliyah didn't smile right away. "It still hurts," she said softly. "It shouldn't have to get this far." "No," he agreed, "but now they know who you are." A week later, the local paper released a new article. This one told the story properly from the night at the bus stop to the day the rumors broke. The headline read, "Kindness Under Fire, the girl who reminded a town what humanity looks like." It quoted Harold Charles and even Arthur. "She didn't save me for reward," Arthur said in the article. "She did it because she cared. That's the truth." When Aaliyah read it, she felt her chest tighten again, but this time, not from pain. "You didn't have to say that," she told Arthur. "Yes, I did," he said. "They needed to hear it." After that, things started to settle. The reporters stopped coming. The foundation's donations increased. People from nearby towns sent letters thanking her for reminding them to look out for each other. But not everyone disappeared quietly. Evan posted one last angry message before deleting his accounts. "Believe what you want," he wrote. "You'll see the truth one day." He never showed his face again. Aaliyah didn't mention him. She didn't need to. She had more important things to do. Every morning she met with Arthur in the study, going over plans for the Maple Light Foundation. They discussed outreach programs, scholarships, and volunteer networks. She worked harder than ever, but this time the work meant something. One evening, Arthur watched her from across the table as she wrote notes. "You know," he said, smiling faintly, "I think I was right about you." She looked up. "About what? That you'd change this place. You already have." She blushed, slightly shaking her head. "I'm just trying to keep up." "Don't sell yourself short," he said. "You turned a story full of hate into one about hope. That's rare." Aaliyah smiled, then small, but real. "I guess sometimes you just have to ride a little farther than you planned," she said quietly. Arthur chuckled. "That's one way to put it." The room went quiet again, filled only by the soft ticking of the clock and the crackle of the fire. Outside, the last of the snow was melting. Inside, Aaliyah finally felt what she'd been searching for. Since the night everything fell apart, peace. For a few quiet weeks, things finally seemed to calm down. The online noise faded, the reporters stopped calling, and Aaliyah's name was no longer the center of every conversation. She spent her days at the foundation's office with Arthur, helping set up community programs and working on the first scholarship applications. The Maple Light Foundation was becoming real, something solid, something good. They'd opened a small center downtown where kids could get tutoring or job training, and every afternoon Aaliyah would sit by the front desk, greeting people, making them feel welcome. It was simple work, but it made her proud. Arthur watched her with quiet satisfaction, knowing he had made the right choice. Yet peace never lasted long. One morning, Charles came in holding a folded newspaper. His face was tense. "You should see this," he said. Arthur glanced at him immediately, sensing something was wrong. "What is it now?" Charles laid the paper on the table. The front page had a headline that made Arthur's stomach twist. "Ex-employee claims foundation is a front for exploitation." Beneath it was a photo of Evan, the former store manager, standing outside a building with microphones around him. He looked smug, like someone who had just found a way to wound someone else. The article quoted him directly. "That girl's playing everyone," he said. "She's not helping that old man, she's controlling him. I worked with her. She's manipulative. She lies. I'm telling you, she's got him fooled, and soon everyone else will be too." Arthur exhaled slowly, rubbing his temples. "Of course it's him." Charles nodded grimly. "He's angry the first video didn't destroy her, so now he's doubling down. Will anyone believe him again after what happened last time?" Aaliyah asked quietly from the corner. She'd been listening the whole time. "Some will," Charles said. "People like drama more than truth." Arthur looked at her. "You've done nothing wrong. We'll handle this the same way we did before, with patience." But this time, it wasn't just online noise. Evan had given an interview to a local TV station, repeating his story with more detail, claiming he had documents proving Arthur's foundation was funneling money for personal use. It was all lies, but it was enough to stir suspicion again. Anonymous emails started coming to the foundation's inbox. Reporters asked for comment. Volunteers whispered behind Aaliyah's back, unsure what to believe. The damage was small, but steady, like cracks forming in glass. Aaliyah felt it every day, people's stares, their hesitation, when she walked into a room. One afternoon, a woman she'd worked with on a community drive pulled her aside. "I don't believe those things they're saying," the woman said gently. "But you should know, some folks are talking." Aaliyah nodded. "I figured they would. Just keep your head up," the woman said. "You can't fight every rumor. You just keep being who you are." Aaliyah tried, but the weight of it all started pressing down again. That night, she sat in the study, long after Arthur had gone to bed, scrolling through the endless stream of comments and posts. It was like watching a storm she couldn't stop. Some people defended her, others attacked. She wanted to scream, but didn't. Instead, she turned off her phone and sat in the dark until the screen cooled in her hands. The next morning, she went downstairs early. Arthur was already at the table, reading the paper, his glasses low on his nose. He looked up when he saw her. "You didn't sleep," he said. "I'm fine," she said softly. "You're not," he said. "But I know that look. You're tired of being misunderstood." She didn't answer, just looked at him. "When I was younger," he continued, "a rumor almost ruined my business. Took me months to prove my innocence. I learned something, then truth takes time, but it never dies." "But what if people never listen?" she asked. "Then you live your truth anyway," he said, "because your integrity doesn't depend on their belief." He reached across the table and took her hand. "You helped me remember who I was. Let me help you do the same." His words steadied her more than she expected. Still, she couldn't help feeling small against the force of public opinion. A few days later, things shifted again, but this time in their favor. Harold, the store owner, came by the foundation with a USB drive in his hand. "Thought you might want this," he said. "Found the old camera footage I saved before that punk deleted everything. Shows him taking the money and blaming her." "We already cleared that up," Aaliyah said. Maybe Harold said, but a little reminder never hurts. They uploaded the footage online through the foundation's page, along with a short message for anyone still doubting the Truth Watch, and decide for yourself. Within hours, it spread. The comments filled with support again. People apologized for ever believing Evan's lies. News outlets that had once run skeptical headlines now released follow-ups correcting the story. One even published an editorial titled, "How We Failed a Young Woman Who Only Showed Kindness." Arthur read it out loud to her at breakfast. "You see, the same mouths that condemned you now praise you." "It doesn't feel like a victory," she said. "It feels like a cycle that never ends." "That's life," he said gently, "but you came out stronger." The next day, something unexpected happened. A small news crew showed up at the foundation, not with accusations, but with gratitude. They wanted to run a segment on how the organization had grown despite public scrutiny. The reporter, a young woman with kind eyes, interviewed Aaliyah in the garden behind the building. "You've been through a lot in the last few months," she said. "What keeps you going?" Aaliyah thought for a moment. "I guess knowing that what we do here matters. We help people find second chances. I can't stop because people lied about me. That's not who I am. And what would you say to those who doubted you? I'd say I forgive them," she said simply, "because hate doesn't need company. It needs silence." The reporter looked surprised, but nodded, clearly moved. When the segment aired that evening, it spread faster than any of the negative stories ever had. The comments were full of praise and apology. People donated to the foundation. Former critics sent letters of support. One said, "I judged too quickly. You made me want to be better." Arthur watched it all unfold with quiet pride. "You didn't just survive this," he said. "You turned it into something that helps others." "I just told the truth," she said. "Exactly," he said. "That's what makes you different." A few days later, the governor's office reached out asking if Arthur and Aaliyah would attend a community leadership event. It was meant to highlight local organizations making a difference. Aaliyah was nervous, but Arthur insisted she go. "You've earned this," he told her. The event was held in the town hall, a grand old building with marble floors and long rows of seats. Dozens of people came, including some who had once doubted her. When Arthur introduced her on stage, the applause was louder than she expected. She spoke briefly, thanking everyone who supported the foundation and reminding them that kindness wasn't weakness, it was strength. Her voice trembled at first, but by the end, it was steady. When she finished, the room stood in quiet respect. Afterwards, several people came up to shake her hand, including the woman from the grocery drive. "Told you to keep your head up," she whispered. "You did good, kid." Aaliyah smiled, feeling a lump in her throat. Later that night, back at the house, she and Arthur sat by the fire. "You proud of yourself yet?" he asked. She laughed softly. "A little." "Good," he said. "You should be." They sat in silence for a moment, the flames flickering low. Then she said, "Do you ever think it'll all go away? The rumors, the memories of it?" "No," Arthur said honestly, "but that's all right. The past doesn't vanish. It just becomes quieter when you fill it with better things." She nodded slowly, letting the warmth of the fire soak into her tired bones. "Then I guess we just keep building," she said. "That's the spirit," he replied. "Maple Light isn't just about me or you anymore. It's about everyone we've helped. You gave it that heart." The room fell quiet again, but it wasn't heavy. It was full. The kind of silence that comes after surviving something hard and realizing you're still standing. Outside, the snow was melting into small streams along the road, washing away the dirt and salt left behind. Inside, Aaliyah finally understood that redemption wasn't something given, it was something earned again and again through honesty, patience, and grace. And as she looked across the room at Arthur, this man she'd once found lost and confused at a bus stop, she realized that both of them had been rescued that night, each in their own way. The years passed quietly, but they were full. The Maple Light Foundation grew from one small office into 3 centers across the state. Aaliyah worked harder than anyone, often staying late to meet with students, organize supplies, or write proposals. People respected her. They listened when she spoke. She had become the face of the foundation, not because she wanted the attention, but because her story gave it life. Each time she spoke at an event or met a new volunteer, she carried the same calm, grounded energy, the kind that came from surviving something and choosing kindness anyway. Arthur watched with quiet pride. He didn't speak at as many events anymore, his health slowing him down, but he was always there in spirit, reading reports, asking questions, pushing Aaliyah to think bigger. One evening, after a long day of meetings, she found him sitting in the greenhouse. The light outside was dimming the last of the sunset, fading through the glass. He was in his chair, wrapped in a blanket, looking at the lemon tree he loved. "You're still working," she said softly, stepping inside. "I'm just sitting," he said with a small smile. "The tree's doing all the work." She pulled up a chair beside him. "The board wants to name the scholarship after you," she said. "They think it'll inspire people. They should name it after you," he replied. "You're the one who made this place matter." "We made it matter," she said. He looked at her for a moment and nodded slowly. "We did, didn't we?" The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the heater. "You know," he said, "when I first started this foundation, I thought I was just giving money away. But you showed me it wasn't about that. It was about giving people back their dignity." Aaliyah smiled gently. "You gave that to me first. You gave it to yourself," he said. "All I did was make sure the world saw it." His voice was softer now, weaker around the edges. "Promise me something," he said. "Promise me you'll keep this going even after I'm gone." She blinked. "Don't talk like that. I'm old, not immortal," he said with a faint laugh. "It's time. You'll do fine without me." She shook her head, tears already forming. "I wouldn't even be here if it weren't for you. And I wouldn't have found my way home if it weren't for you," he said. "Seems we're even." Aaliyah reached out and held his hand. It was colder than usual. "You'll be fine," she said quietly, more to herself than to him. "You'll be fine." "Maybe," he said, smiling. "But if I'm not, I'll rest, knowing you kept the light on." That night, after she helped him back to his room, she stood outside his door for a long time, listening to the faint sound of him humming an old tune. It was the same one he used to hum when they worked late, the same melody she'd first heard when he was lost at that bus stop years ago. 2 weeks later, Arthur passed away in his sleep. There were no dramatic moments, no hospital scenes, just peace. Charles found him in the morning, still holding the folded blanket she'd given him for warmth. The house fell silent in a way Aaliyah had never known. The air felt heavy, like it was waiting for him to walk in and tell one of his stories, but he never did. The funeral was small, quiet, filled with people whose lives he'd touched. Businessmen, old friends, families who had received scholarships from the foundation. Aaliyah stood at the front beside Charles, her hands clasped tightly together, her heart aching in a way she couldn't describe. When it was her turn to speak, she walked up to the podium, took a breath, and looked out at the faces before her. "Arthur Layton taught me what kindness really means," she began. "He didn't just believe in helping people, he believed in seeing them. He saw me when no one else did. He gave me a chance when I had nothing. And because of that, hundreds of others now have a chance too." Her voice broke slightly, but she steadied it. "He once told me that some choices weigh more than others, even when they don't make sense on paper. That night at the bus stop, I made a choice to help someone I didn't know. I didn't know it would change my life or his, but it did. And now it's our responsibility to keep that choice alive, to keep choosing kindness, even when it costs us something." She looked down for a moment, then up again. "He used to say that family isn't always who you're born to, it's who you walk home with in the dark. I think that's what we did for each other, and I hope we can keep walking for everyone else who's still lost out there." When she finished, the room was silent for a moment before a soft wave of applause began. Not loud or showy, just gentle and real. After the service, Charles handed her a sealed envelope. "He left this for you," he said quietly. Her hands trembled as she took it. She waited until she was home before opening it. Inside was a single handwritten letter and a small photograph of them standing together in front of the foundation on opening day. The letter was written in Arthur's shaky handwriting. "My dear Aaliyah, if you're reading this, I've already gone home. Don't be sad for long. You gave me back the best years of my life. You reminded me that goodness still exists even when the world forgets. This foundation, this house, everything I built, it's yours to guide now. Don't think of it as a burden. Think of it as a light you carry forward. I've left things in order, but more importantly, I've left you the freedom to make it grow in your way. Keep it honest. Keep it kind. You taught me that real wealth isn't what we keep, it's what we share. You gave me peace, and I hope you'll find yours too. With love, Arthur." She sat there for a long time reading it again and again until the words blurred through her tears. Then she folded it carefully and placed it back in the envelope. The next morning, she walked to the greenhouse. The sun was just rising, spilling soft gold through the glass. She stood beside the lemon tree, touched one of its leaves, and whispered, "I'll keep the light on." From that day forward, Aaliyah took full leadership of the Maple Light Foundation. She expanded the scholarship program, started mentorships, and opened safe housing for young people aging out of foster care. Every decision she made carried a trace of Arthur's lessons, but also her own touch, humble, steady, genuine. Years later at the foundation's 10th anniversary, a reporter asked her how it all began. She smiled and said, "With a bus stop, a lost man, and a choice." The room laughed softly, but she meant every word. After the event, she walked alone outside to the old white gate that had once felt like the edge of the world. The same path where she had first brought Arthur home that freezing night now led to a community center full of life. Children laughed in the courtyard. Volunteers carried boxes of food. Somewhere music played faintly through the open windows. She stood there for a moment, breathing it all in, the sound, the warmth, the proof that kindness hadn't been wasted. Charles, now gray at the temples, joined her quietly. He'd be proud, he said. He already was, she replied. They stood together, watching the evening settle in. The streetlights flickered on, one by one, and for a second, she thought of that night again. The cold wind, the broken bus stop, the man who'd looked so lost. She remembered his voice, trembling but kind, asking for a way home. And she remembered her own steady and certain saying, "Hold on tight, we'll make it." Now, years later, she understood that home wasn't a place at all. It was the moment someone refused to leave you behind. As the sky deepened into twilight, she whispered a quiet thank you to Arthur, to the town, to the girl she once was who chose to stop. The wind brushed past gentle and cool, and she smiled. The Maple Light Foundation shone behind her, its sign glowing softly against the night, a small but steady promise that compassion could outlast everything. Aaliyah turned toward the door, ready to go back to work. The world outside was still full of noise, full of struggle and uncertainty, but she knew now that one act of kindness could echo far longer than hate ever could. And as she walked inside, she carried that truth with her the same way Arthur had once carried faith in her, the same way she would carry it forward for everyone still waiting to be seen.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.